I was born in Tokyo, Japan, and I moved to the United States, New York City, in 1970. I, like so many artists, felt caught in its invisible gravitational pull. I imagined it as an intricate entanglement of concrete and frenzied crowds of free-minded individuals where I could find not only a home, but success in my artistic endeavors. It happened 5 years later, during my time studying at the Parsons School of Design. I remember the night as ordinary, except that I had difficulty falling asleep. I had kept turning over, getting lost in the twists of my sheets. Around midnight, as I stared at the blank space of my ceiling, I slowly registered a faint buzzing sound vibrating off my eardrums. It sounded far off in the distance, as if it were originating from somewhere outside my window. I ignored it as an instinct, but as the minutes passed, it grew louder. I distinctly remember thinking how much it reminded me of the energetic sounds of bees during warm summers. I allowed myself to lie in bed, listening for a few minutes, when I noticed the numbers on my electronic alarm clock had warped in a frenzy of quick-changing lines and shapes. And then the lights appeared. They flashed in an instant and pierced through the blinds that shaded my bedroom window and tainted the walls with blinding illumination. The rest of my movements seemed like something out of a dream, far away and slow. I only realized I had made it outside when my skin tightened and broke out in tiny bumps from the harsh, cold wind, but it did not matter, because my attention was centered on the origin of light above my head. It was immaculate and magnificent. I felt like I was staring straight into the mouth of God. In my trance, it took me longer than it should have to realize my weight had become lighter, that I was traveling in a vertical line. I could feel the gravitational pull lifting me upward to the light, slowly swallowing me. Once I boarded the platform that housed the light, my consciousness distorted, as if it was incapable to withstand the new environment. Nothing felt like reality or fantasy. Nothing had borders. Everything morphed into a whirlwind of ugly and distant sounds. My vision scattered neon colors and wavy shapes into mesmerizing collages of visual stimulation. Nothing has been able to compete with that beauty. It was like a switch was pulled when I regained any senses. Immediately, I attempted to explore my surroundings, but everything was obscured by the harsh light that seemed to be omnipresent in every corner I turned my eyes towards. I felt infinity in this space. The whiteness held no restrictions. I was in a worried ecstasy before I began taking in speech from an unknown entity. I wasn't understanding their speech through the usual biological sense of hearing. Rather, I felt their expressions push into my mind. Telepathic communication, I now know. They expressed concern over my discomfort. They told me not to be afraid and that everything would be over soon. I did not say anything, but I thought, why me? The faceless beings told me it was because I intrigued them. They were always drawn to interesting individuals, they said. I did not know what to say in response. During my silence, the silhouette of a flat shape with long protrusions came into focus before my eyes. Before I could really register what was happening, the shape planted itself on my forehead, surprising the surface of my skin with a cold and heavy pressure. I began to spasm. It was an experience similar to that when I first boarded the vessel of the light, but significantly heavier and stranger. My mind raced in wild directions. I began to think in contradictions and juxtapositions, colors and sounds intermixed. I felt powerful, mentally drained, yet strengthened. It only lasted moments before the shape withdrew back into the blank atmosphere. I found that I had found it a strange, intimate experience with the shape, and my mind ached for the visions its placement gave me. I repeated the visions over and over in my head, until I sensed the white space darken and constrict. I heard and felt nothing else until my eyes shut closed, and the world became black. The morning after I awoke, I convinced myself that it had all been one convoluted narrative of a dream, and yet I remembered every detail in immense lucidity that conviction seemed too ridiculous. I carried those images in my memory for the years that followed. As time went by, I found that I constantly portrayed fragments of those images in my artwork, as if I was trying to capture their forms once again. I wanted to manifest those mixed dichotomies of visual information into my work, seemingly reliving the experience from that night, long ago now. My work earned the title of abstract art. I went along with it because I felt odd stating the true foundation of my work. That description is not completely invalid, of course, since I was certainly drawn to such paintings for their similar nature to the images I remember. But no one knew the full story.